my beautiful friends, and welcome to the Path of Me. I have such a lovely guest today. Her name is Allana Pratt, and she has quite an incredible bio. So I'm just going to read it really quick. She is an intimacy expert, a global media personality, and go-to authority for those who have suffered heartbreak and are ready to live unapologetically and attract an open-hearted, ideal relationship. She has been chosen as an icon of influence, is a columnist on the Good Men Project, and has been featured on Huffington Post, People Magazine, Forbes, CBS, ABC, and Fox, and so much more. This Ivy League grad is the author of 6 books, has interviewed Whoopi Goldberg and Alanis Morissette, and hosts the edgy podcast Intimate Conversations, where listeners learn how to find the relationship they deserve. A certified coach with close to 5 million viewers on YouTube. Go Allana, that's so amazing. Allana was asked by Lisa Gibbons to coach her during Dancing with the Stars. That's pretty cool.
It was really fun.
Incredible. While supporting a number of nonprofits, Allana has created a new category with an inclusive partnering app, an intimacy training called Heartmates app, where members become the one to find the one. So without further ado, welcome Allana, and thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh, thank you. And you've been a guest on Intimate Conversations too. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so glad we could trade. That was awesome. I sure appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure.
But I am so excited to share your story because I know the work you do is so powerful, but behind the machine is really a person, right? Is a human having this experience called life, going through her trials and tribulations and soul growth. So I'd love to go back to the beginning and have you tell me a little bit about your family of origin story, your family dynamics, what shaped you, what influenced and drove all your choices all these years that got you to this point.
Yeah. So the first image or memory that comes up when I think about how I grew up, my mom was a teacher. My dad was a pharmacist. My dad had his own inner demons, so used the pharmacy for the drugs, and then also alcoholic as well. Mom, codependent. She'd come home after school, and I remember always sitting down and she'd have a cup of tea and we would connect. My sister would hide in the bedroom. Dad would eventually come home, pour the first glass of scotch, and then the fighting would begin every night. Out at the lake every summer, though, we had a cabin, and my mom was a teacher, so we got the summers off. And she was different then because Dad would only come out on the weekends. You could see she started to relax a bit, but she was quite distant. And right beside our cabin was nature. And I would go into the forest every day, and I believed I talked to fairies. And that was my happy place. Nature, the fairies, the lake was in front of me, because there was always chaos growing up. And like a permakegel, you could call it, in your vagina, or your stomach was always anxious. And always 3 steps ahead, so that I would be safe and a hole wouldn't be punched through the wall.
Safety was a huge thing for you, right? Because you probably felt so much turmoil and uncertainty with the escalated volume and intensity and maybe violence. I don't know, but that must have been so tough.
Yeah.
As a 3 or 4-year-old child with no defenses, right?
Yeah. So I remember once dancing in the living room. We had like an ottoman, and I remember playing Jesus Christ Superstar, like loud on the stereo, going in circles around the ottoman, and you know the hole through the wall, in the highway, the hallway. I guess I didn't hear "be quiet."
Oh my gosh!
So the level of violence that would occur if you weren't paying attention was so startling to my system that I never really quite exhaled.
It's kind of like your adrenal system was just totally amped 24/7. And we carry that into adulthood. So that is probably been something really difficult to navigate, or just a normal state of being. So almost like it's just, that's how it is, maybe.
Right. And it made me into a really good people pleaser and a really driven, get good grades or anything not to rock the boat. So it sort of did that. I even remember this guy it's so funny. I remember his name. I don't want to say it in case the poor guy feels bad, but his name was Todd. And he was in kindergarten, and he would like chase me home on his bike and run me over.
Oh my gosh, really?
So much that my mom went to school to say to the principal, like, you have to make the kids stay so Allana can get home before you let him go home.
Oh my
so there was this trend of like, when am I going to get hit? When am I going to get hurt? Like, it was pretty
like
much
a pattern from so young.
Yeah.
So what do you think were some of the decisions that resulted from living in that space of fear and anxiety and having to be totally on point with your defenses up at all times?
Well, I do know a decision that I made when I was 16. My two friends were supposed to come over for the weekend out at the lake. And then one of them arrived and she said, James is dead. But they would play jokes on me all the time. And then I saw her parents come behind her and I'm like, oh, this is real. And I remember running down the yellow line of the highway right beside the cabin, just screaming, no. And that actually was a positive memory of my father, who grabbed my shoulders. And I had no idea he was even the slightest bit spiritual, but he's like, look, you're going to see him again. If this is it, let's just get off. No. We live forever. You're going to see your friend again. Drunk, stoned, crazy dad was actually quite...
In that moment, he was present for you.
Yes, he was. And so I would say up until that really difficult moment, but also a door opening moment, all I knew was just be 3 steps ahead, be a good girl, don't get hurt. And then that was like a little doorway that opened of like, oh, well, maybe there's more to it than this. So I made a decision that day, and it was actually a very magical moment, Wendy. My friends took me bike riding that day to try to make me feel better. And as we came down on a clear blue sky day, back down to the cabin, there were 2 rainbows right over my cabin. And my friend who died, right? And my friend who died, his mom had died 10 months earlier. And he was trying to explain to me what that was like, because I'm a dancer, right? I love to dance.
Right.
He's like, it's as if you have no more legs. How could you live? So I knew he wanted to be on the other side with his mom. Right. And those rainbows let me know.
Right. Wow.
So that woke me up to there's more than meets the eye. Mm-hmm. And so one of the decisions I made was, would I prefer to not know that friend and not be in pain, mm-hmm. or know that friend, be in pain, but learn how to live with my heart open, learn how to open it again. And that some maturity happened, like, okay, nothing lasts forever. You don't know who's going to die tomorrow. But if nothing lasts forever, the bad doesn't last forever either. So the good or the bad doesn't last forever. So let's live fully.
It's really interesting how we have these pivotal moments.
Yeah.
That stay with us our entire lives. Now,
I believe that pivotal moment supported me when I quit college. And he wasn't my real uncle. He was my real uncle's friend. Mm-hmm. He drove a semi to LA from Canada once a month. And I quit college and I hopped on that semi down to LA to be a dancer. And I think we could call it stubbornness, stupidity, but I call it courage to do that was based on, okay, there's no guarantee for tomorrow. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give it my best.
Yeah. You were so bold and brave at such a young age. You were so fearless. It was like a combination. I don't know. Is it survival instincts or fearless? Or I'm not sure what it is. It's kind of all of it in one package, don't you think? But that was a bold move at your age.
It was a bold move. You're totally right. But it also was based on where I was not fulfilling. Mm-hmm. Like mom and dad fighting all the time. I didn't want to be a pharmacist like my dad. I didn't want to be a teacher like my mom. I know that people can die in a heartbeat. I don't feel seen. I don't feel gotten. So it's not like I had this place that I just wanted to stay.
A nest of safety, right?
There wasn't safety. Mm-hmm. So at least if I only got one shot at this before I believed in more and learned that we live eternally, mm-hmm. or the rest of it, I'm like, mm-hmm. I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to follow what feels alive. And the only thing that really felt alive at that point in my life is I love to dance. There's something about getting out of my head. From an early
age, you were super connected to that.
Yeah, I was always in my happy place in my body.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then you ended up in Japan, right? Dancing professionally over there.
I couldn't work in the States as a Canadian. I had the talent and the courage, but not the visa. Mm-hmm. So yeah, $40 to my name, or my dad's credit card to go home and admit failure and go back to college.
Right. No,
Fuck
thank
that.
you.
No, thanks. Yeah. So $40 left. I got a job dancing in a show in Japan. And I was very concerned I would be sold into slavery. That was like the thing right then. But I trusted my intuition. I did enough research with chambers of commerce and all the rest of it. And over I went to be a dancer. Then that turned into being a dancer and a model, dancer model spokesperson, English teacher, 4 years, saved a bunch of money, met my first husband, you know, backpacked all over before I met him. So learned how to live on a shoestring and Thailand, China, Bali.
You had a life of adventure.
It was great. And
did you feel free? Did you feel free, or was there still a little bit of that I'm not safe feeling, or for that time, did you feel completely free?
You know, it's a great question, Wendy, because I really did feel free. Everything that was happening was based on following my intuition, and it was working. So it was very, very empowering. So it was empowering for that reason, but it was also empowering because I was dancing in these shows. I was topless. The first show I wasn't topless. I was just in a G-string, and I'm like, oh my God. And I was so
then it went next level.
Yeah, then I went next level. Like when our choreographer sent a care package for the first show where I was wearing a G-string, and I'm like, whoo, like I got a coloring book and crayons, and everybody else got like vibrators and those kind of things because I was so young, so green, so naive. But then I'm like, I grew up fast. And I'm like, okay.
Well, I bet you did. I bet you grew up really fast.
But I loved the French girls because they had a different culture, and they said, Allana, your body's a divine temple. Your body's beautiful. Your body's art.
And that set the tone for your work. I mean, right then, so early, the tone for your work around intimacy and your relationship with yourself and your body was being formed. Isn't it interesting to go back and look and just follow the breadcrumbs to where you are now? It's really, really something, isn't it?
They were such a gift. They were these beautiful women, Moulin Rouge, Lido, Crazy Horse, like from Paris. And we were dancing. I danced in lots of different shows, but this was like the Four Seasons. So really posh 5-star hotel. But what I realized, the first show I did, I knew I was getting paid more than the short girls who did the hip hop. And I was the tall girl who had the Vegas costume. So I figured that's why I got more money. But no, it was because they got tops. I didn't get a top. So that's why I got paid.
It took a hot minute to figure that out.
Yeah. And I was like,
if you lose the top,
more money,
you get more compensation.
No, you do. So I was, and I wanted to look cool because everybody else was cool with it. Australians, French, you know, whatever. And I was like, oh, no one's going to know. Just do it. Just do it tonight. And then you don't have to come back tomorrow. So I remember being on one side of the stage, my side of the stage, and all the men were we call them scabé, really horny. And I just felt like, and on their side of the stage, they got all the guys that would bow and have all this honor.
Were respectful and honoring. And
yeah, but it was the same show.
Right.
And it was the same dance. What was going on? I was different. So I was talking to them about it the next day saying, you know, I feel really dirty and broken and embarrassed. And they're like, and that's when they told me I was a divine temple. And they were actually teaching me Tonglen, you know, like the Tibetan practice of breathing in the pain and suffering of the world, exhaling love and compassion. I learned how to transform men's attention in a show in Japan, in Tokyo, because the next night I showed up on stage and I breathed in their yucky energy, and I affirmed inside of my thoughts, my heart, and my body, I am a goddess. And then I exhaled that out as I walked and did my number on the stage, and all the men on my side of the stage started to bow and be respectful.
No way.
No,
you literally transmuted the energy of that room in that side of the stage.
And they weren't Tibetan monks. Magical. They were Crazy Horse dancers, but they knew. And so then we went to a different show, we all went to, and it was a new club opening. And it was fun, like Duran would come, or like it was like long 30 years ago.
That sounds like a really good time, really good years in your life.
They taught me to love and honor my body and to love and honor my sacred sexual energy, and that I'm creating with the universe. It was very liberating.
It's almost like you were having this, you're dancing topless, but having a spiritual experience at the same time, which is so wild, right? But so beautiful and magical at the same time. Yeah. And for you to have that as a foundation and springboard into your adult life, you know, I think it's really powerful because women have so much shame around their bodies. typically. So for you to be able to be so free
Yeah.
in your being, I think is such a gift at such an early age. And
Yeah. And my mom did her best, but she didn't teach me any of this. I remember at 13, she took me out for dinner all by myself. I was sure I was in trouble. And she took one glass of wine, downed it in one gulp, put it upside down, and said, "This is your vagina." And I was like, ah! And she taught me
let me tell you a little something, something.
Yeah,
oh
so
my
she told me
gosh.
about how it worked, about getting pregnant, but she didn't teach me about pleasure. I didn't even know I had a clitoris. I had a lover in Japan. I waited till I was like 18 to have sex, and then I got to Japan when I was 20, and I had a lover from Okinawa. And I just remember if we had sex in this chair, something really cool happened in my body. But I didn't understand. I was such a dork. I had no idea what a clitoris was or orgasm.
Well, I mean, your mom probably, the generation they come from, they are raised a certain way and that's all they know. And it's a different time, right? So tell me a little bit about your mom. I know you loved her dearly and you lost her at such an early age.
Yeah. Yeah, she, one of my first memories of my mom, I was probably 2, and I got a Fisher-Price record player, and we were living in the chicken coops, we called them at the time, and she was sitting on this couch, pink velour nightie with horn rim glasses and a scarf on her head, very 70s, right? I was born in 1970. And I had my little Fisher-Price people on my Fisher-Price record player, which is not what you're supposed to do, but that's what I did. And I put them on low, and they would wobble, and I'd looked at her, and she'd smile. I put them on medium and they'd wobble a lot, and she was watching, she was present. And I put them on high and they went all over the room, and I laughed, and she just delighted in my delight. She was just so present. I just felt safe and seen and understood in my full self-expression with her. So that was kind of a theme my whole life. When I would come home, she'd have her cup of tea, I'd have my cup of tea, we'd talk, all the way to when I came home from Japan the first time. I said, "Mom, I want to buy a vibrator." And she's like, "Right." And this was the days of the yellow pages. So she's like,
She's thinking of sex toy shop or something.
She's like,
"Where did I find this?"
No, but we did. We found the Love Shop, and we went downtown.
So you totally expanded her horizons.
We bought vibrators together. We
so you bonded with your mom in a way, obviously, that you never could with your dad. And was she with your dad until she passed?
No. When I left for Japan, so they were together 30 years. When I left for Japan, they divorced. So when I came back,
so she kind of was a different person then when you came back. It must have been transformative for her to be on her own and for you to be on your own and then meet each other more as equals instead of.
Yeah, we would tell dating stories. She even came over to Japan to see me.
Oh, she was able to visit you over there?
Yeah, we went to Korea and Japan. And
oh my gosh, that must have been such a special time for you.
This is us at a RyoCon. She's in a kimono. This is her when she came to Japan to see me. Yeah, so we became like women together. We grew together in our hearts and in our sexuality.
That's so beautiful that you had her in your life as long as you did.
Yeah.
So how has all of that history translated into your relationships? I know your first relationship, he's the father of Gabe, right?
No, second husband is the father of Gabe.
So tell me a little bit about how that theme of how you related with your dad carried through your relationships, because that obviously led you to relationship coaching.
Totally.
So I'd love to know the story.
So when I met my first husband, it was back in Japan, and he was a tall, dark, and handsome multimillionaire, good man, monogamous man, wanted a relationship, but I never asked if I wanted a relationship. I never asked if I loved him. I was just so grateful that somebody loved me, that wanted me, because I still had so many daddy wounds. And I remember he took me away. He's like, "Bring your passport and a bikini." And he took me to the Philippines, to the Shangri-La Hotel. And I was so proud of myself at that point, because I think I'd saved like $50,000, which to me was
that's big money back then.
Oh yeah, this is like early 90s. But he was on the phone negotiating 1.3 for his bonus. And that's not 1.3 thousand, like that's 1.3 million. And I don't know why I did this, Wendy, but I decided, oh, he's smarter, I'm more stupid. He's right, I'm wrong. He's superior, I'm inferior.
So in that instant, you gave all your power away.
100%. 100%. Yeah, it's very shocking, isn't it?
What do you think? Was it about, did you feel like, oh, because he's earning this kind of money, he's got to be smarter and better and wiser and more
exactly.
sophisticated or whatever than I am?
All of it. I made him mean all those things. And then he got a transfer back to New York, and I came back to New York, and that's when I went to Columbia and all the rest of it. And I don't understand why. I just went right into the daddy wound of, daddy, do you see me? Am I good enough? I just went right into that. No, I don't make as much money as you, but am I good enough? Or you have all of this. I just kept seeking his approval. And of course it was never good enough because it was coming from lack in the first place. And so I attracted somebody based on that wound. I do remember he was raised a certain way and behaved a certain way, but I couldn't even cut a friggin' vegetable right without getting in trouble. Why are you cutting a vegetable that way? Why are you wearing that? Why did you hang the picture like that? Like, I couldn't do anything.
Isn't it interesting how we create what we fear the most?
Totally.
It's like they're such a mirror, like our partners and our relationships, even friendships or, whatever. So many relationships, they're all mirrors of our wounds, and they're mirroring to us constantly. And we're manifesting it because I think there's a divine cosmic order to things where we are constantly being guided back to ourselves and our healing.
Yes.
And so we manifest these things. Our wounds are manifesting the right partners, the right work environments, whatever, to get us to choose ourselves.
Totally.
And it's so hard to do when you're conditioned and programmed and wounded, and it's a blind spot. So we don't even know it's a wound that we need to heal, right?
Yeah. We went to therapy, we went to workshops. I remember watching that movie Kama Sutra with him and just bawling because I didn't have that heart connection with him. He thought I was hot. He was generous, but there wasn't that rich.
You didn't have that intimacy.
No. So I took a risk and I said, I was always going to wait till after the next vacation because he always would take us on these epic, 5-star vacations. Right. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to go on the next epic vacation. So it was time to leave. And I said, I'm not going. I'm going to stay. And that very next day, and it was a risk because I didn't have a green card. Right. I'd have to go back to Japan and dance, or back to Canada and say I failed. But those were better than how alone I felt within a relationship. But I said, I'm not going. And the very next day, you know what arrived in the mail? My green card.
No way.
Yeah, way.
Are you serious?
I had to choose first me in the face of, I don't know what's going to happen. And then the universe said, oh, she's serious. Here, we'll help her.
Isn't it incredible how the moment you choose you and start to align, the universe starts to just go, here you go, here you go, here you go. And when we are in alignment, literally we're parting the Red Sea and just walking right through.
That is, shivers. Yeah.
And when we don't align, all we're meeting are obstacles, and life is a struggle.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's so important. I think the message that I'm hearing from you is to choose yourself.
100%.
And love yourself.
In the face of anything.
In the face of adversity, in the face of fear, in the face of the unknown.
Yeah.
Because when you choose you, everything in your life changes.
Totally. Choose you. And so I learned from when my friend died when I was 16, open your heart in the face of anything. And then I learned from him, step forward and choose you in the face of anything. And everything began to beautifully unfold for my life. And then I met husband number 2. And that was right when my mom was like literally on her.
You were vulnerable. You were vulnerable at that time.
Well, my mom was dying of cancer. And my heart was closed because she was basically my best friend. So I attracted, like attracts like. So my heart was closed. I attracted a closed-hearted man. And she died very quickly. And if there's time, I'll tell you a story, another lesson that happened when she died. But basically, the long and short of that relationship was, from his point of view, I had signed up for life, to marry him. And then within a year of mom dying and us fighting so much, I divorced him as well. And that felt humiliating to him. And his revenge, because his heart was closed, was to try to take our son away from me. And that lasted for over a decade of a court battle. Yeah.
You know, it's so hard when the ego gets involved because the ego wants to win.
Yeah.
In
And
winning, in what your the frame of reference for winning is, what the definition of winning is actually costing your mental health, your financial,
well,
safety, your emotional and
yeah.
physical health. Because if we're not healthy, emotionally and mentally, that energy, that toxicity just starts to devour us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did you navigate those years? And at the same time, I mean, you're so incredible. You're actually building your business and growing this over here while having
Yeah.
to fight for your life and your son over here.
Yeah.
How did you survive that? What were your tools, or what were your go-tos, or were you just kind of hanging on by a wing and a prayer?
Pretty much all of that. I was learning a lot and hanging on by a wind and a prayer. The
Mm-hmm.
first lesson that gave me potency or power is when I literally looked at mom who was dead. I really thought she's not there. She wasn't just sleeping. I could tell the soul was not there.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, I remember that moment, like, keep your heart open, one potato, two potato. It was so
Yeah.
painful the minute I was
Yeah.
like looking at her. But
Yeah.
after about 5 breaths, it sort of went from like pain over into this oneness of love. I'm like, oh my God, she's free. She's out of pain. She's everywhere. I
Mm-hmm.
had this moment of like bliss within about 10 seconds of hearing that she's dead, because she wasn't there and I didn't need to look for her there anymore. She was everywhere. It was very, very profound. That weekend was my sister's wedding. And so we decided she was on vacation and got very drunk, and I got pregnant. And then, so 9 months later, there I am giving birth to my child, looking at him in my arms for the very first time. And the feeling was like, oh my God, it's a miracle of bliss. Oh my God. Oh God, how am I going to keep him alive? Oh shit, what if he dies? Oh,
and it's like the reverse, right?
Totally. It was reversed. And this is why
So
I call
it's
the
so
app.
interesting, because the life was lost, but eternal life is gained in bliss and connection.
Circle of life, 100%
And
circle
yeah,
of
and then
life.
here you're giving life and you have the complete opposite experience, which is so wild.
Yeah. And this is the image I saw, which is why I called Heartmates, the app that I've developed, Heartmates. And before that, I created a course called Hearts Splayed Wide Open. It's all about the heart. Because in that moment I saw the heart, I'm like, oh, through the path of pain of my mom dying, I got home to oneness, bliss, love, whatever you want to call it. And then, oh my God, through the path of this miracle of a child, this oneness, I like through bliss, it's like, but I got this, we got this. So through pain or pleasure, challenge or support, chaos or order, you come home to the same place.
Well, everything is two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
It's really the same energy.
Yes. The duality of life, sadness and happiness. I had this like, oh, this is how it works.
Pleasure and pain. It's like all of it, right? It's the same.
And life isn't about getting it right, looking good, pleasure, resist. Life is about just be open to it all. Because I grew so much from my friend dying when I was 16. I grew so much from the dancers in Japan. I grew so much from the first marriage, the second marriage.
We really grow from the pain. The pain is our teacher, but most people run from it.
True. And then they get addicted to the pleasure, but there's a detriment to too much pleasure.
100%.
And there's so many gifts in the pain. So this was the big lesson that helped me get through the custody battle, was like, okay, all of this is for me. Nothing's against me. It's not about getting to some outcome. It's about experiencing it all and growing through it all. And
were you doing a lot of like self-help, or were you just coming intuitively to these knowings? Because you are very divinely connected.
I definitely intuitive and simultaneously personal growth courses as well. Like, for example, I was at a workshop once, I think it was even before Gabriel was born. There was this competition on the stage of about 20 women, and we had to close our eyes, and all the women in the audience had to close their eyes, and the men voted. Who did they want to basically fuck? That was one vote. And who did they want to spend 20 years on a desert island with, to kind of flush up these different capacities of the feminine? But I was the first person apparently to win in both categories. And the other girl that won in the sexy category, she was like clearly sexy. I had like big sweater on. Like, I'm like, why am I don't even understand why you even voted for me. And the men in the audience said, she's having pleasure in her body, not to manipulate me or compete with other women, but just because she's alive and I want in. And I was like, oh, like unconscious competence, right?
It was like eye-opening for you, right? Like,
yes.
oh.
And here's the other piece that they got, and why I was also voted in this other category. And I would say the other women were more, not matronly dressed, but I was more funky than them. And so all the women in the audience were like, why did she win over there too? And the gentleman said this, and I have spoken nothing. I'm just standing here, right? They said, I don't know what it is about her, but if I lost my job, she wouldn't emasculate me. She would believe in me. There's something about her energy, like I want to die for her. She's got that queen energy. I was like, curious. So I was on this stage, kind of all my unconscious competencies coming competent, which inspired me to learn more, grow more, take more courses, but it was intuitive on some level. Everything I'd gone through to keep my heart open to myself translated into keeping my heart open to others, which inspired men to want to support me. And everything I'd done to let go of taboo and tame around sexuality and just have pleasure because, oh my God, my coffee tastes so good, my coffee. Like everything I can have, oh, this is my vest, it's so soft. Like, oh, and this is a beautiful view. Like taking in pleasure just for the sake of it, not a strategy to get a guy or beat a girl, was like an unconscious competence that I could like teach others that gives joy and juiciness and youthfulness. And
you know what's so huge about that, Allana, is we are programmed to give but not receive. We are taught from such an early age that it's so selfish.
Sure.
To seek pleasure and joy just for the sake of being and enjoying and being present in our life and honoring our feelings and truth and love and knowing.
Yeah.
We're not taught that.
No.
We're
taught, if anything, we're taught that that's selfish.
Exactly. And so for you to have come to that place of knowing at such an early age, despite the adversity, but maybe that was the one gift that you were born with, that innate ability, right? It's such a gift to have that, because the rest of us have had to really work at knowing that it's okay to have pleasure without shame, or pleasure without an agenda, or it doesn't have to be earned.
Correct. And that's over on this side, and over on this side, that we actually have the capacity to keep our hearts open in the face of anything. And that we don't have to give our power away to a person or a circumstance.
Right. So you have been on such an incredible journey of self-awareness and growth. You have been slaying aspects of yourself.
You know, sister.
You're a warrior. You are such a warrior.
Thank you.
I want to ask you how you've been able to maintain vulnerability through these challenging relationships with men that you've had. Because the instinct would be to just close.
Yeah. There's a quote from, I don't know how you say her name right, Anais Nin, is that how you say it? Something about a rosebud where it hurt too much to stay closed. The blossom just had to open. I'm butchering the quote, I'm so sorry. But that's basically where I am right now. It takes way too much brain power to remember who I lied to and who I told the truth to. So I'm like, I just have to tell the truth. And it hurts more to hide in shame, because I actually can feel little Allana in there, who I had to find. I didn't even know she was in there. But once I found her and I was like, oh my God, you're already sad. And I'm judging you and criticizing you or avoiding you and abandoning you. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Did you have a moment where you had this awareness that,
oh yes,
was there like an event or something that triggered that awareness? Can you share that with us?
Sure. Because in this custody battle that we were alluding to, I was fighting for my child. So I was in terror and justification and proving, and they were just mean and hitting under the belt and alluding to bullshit. So it was very, very humiliating.
Really slandering your character, I'm sure.
100,000,000%. And I lost all my savings, and I lost my house, and I went into $250,000 of debt. And all this is happening while I have 50-50 custody, and then I have less custody, and then I have to earn overnights again. And it was just like so awful. So all that was going on. So whenever I would have Gabriel, I would do my best to be present and have joy and have pleasure for no reason, etc. But it was a real doozy until literally the poor child has been in this custody battle since existence for
right,
him.
right. That's all he knows, right?
It's all he knows.
Almost toxicity in a relationship.
100%. That's his whole existence. Until he just said, I think he was 13 or 15. I can't remember quite when, but he was just like, I'm just going to live at dad's and you're going to take the high road. And it's the only way I can have peace. And that's that. So the first time he left, there was not even any tears left. I just remember he came over and he left the door open. He caused this big scene in front of his dad to make sure his dad knew that he really hated me. And I just remember in a clump down on the cold granite floor, like there weren't even tears. I'm just like, I just spent all this money. I spent a decade of fighting and now he's turned against me. Like there's just nothing left. There's just nothing left. So I called my staff at the time and I said, I need a cabin in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to have a controlled nervous breakdown from like Thursday to Monday. And then I'll work.
I love how you plan the nervous breakdown, Allana. I'm going to give myself 4 days. 4 days. That's it.
Well, but yeah, that's it. And then I'll work. And then we'll do it again every week for as long as it takes. I'm going to work 3 or 4 days a week and I'll keep it together. And then I'm going to cry 3 or 4 days a week. And I'm going to like process this. And I found a cabin in the middle, or my staff did. And there was like nature in both directions. And I would sit on the deck. That's actually when we met, because I'll tell them more of the story. So I would sit on the deck and I would write down all my fears. Maybe my son will never call me again. Maybe I'll die alone. And maybe I'll go bankrupt. Maybe this, like, all of it. It was all. And then at the beginning of the sentence, I would write, even though, and then that statement, I love and accept myself. And I would sit there on this deck, and it was like with Mother Gaia.
Like a mantra.
Like a mantra.
Eating yourself this mantra.
And then all of a sudden I started to get connected to the little Allana, many little Allanas, the ashamed one, the scared one, the hopeless one. And then I would visualize her, would feel it in my body. I would say the statement and I would say, and I love and accept you. And at first she was like, no, you don't. You're always mean to me. You always tell me to put a happy face on, to be a people pleaser, or say yes when you mean no, or keep trying when we're exhausted, or stay in a relationship when we should leave. Like she had a lot to say to me.
She was calling you on your shit.
No, 100%. So this coming back together isn't this bunny rabbits and fairy tale kind of, it was intense.
Yes.
She had every right to feel the way she's feeling. And so I learned how to acknowledge myself and how to validate myself and how to not fix myself. And ultimately there was a day when I'd been doing this for like a month or so. And I got to the place where I'm like, you know what? Even if you never change, even if you're always scared and insecure, I love you forever. For eternity. So there was something about, I'd never experienced unconditional love of myself. Only if you change, then we can get the guy, get the money, we'll be fine. Not you can stay. And so I had this image of her inside my heart. And I just closed the door, threw away the key, and I just sat there in the dark with her. And I mean it. And that's when I've had many direct experiences, but that was one of the direct experiences where like the gravity falls out, there's no edges, and you just have a moment of complete oneness with all that is. I thought, okay, I'm onto something. And I don't even remember how we met, Wendy, to be really honest with you. But all I know is when we did that first no touch session, and it went way outside the boundaries of what a no touch session ought to be.
That was next level, like insanity. What happened there? I was like, whoa, this is.
I'm a warrior and I'm ready. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to tell them I can tell them what happened from my point of view. But
you can go ahead and tell them what happened in our session. It was so crazy.
Well, I don't even know what you're supposed to do, but not what happened.
Your team had other ideas of what was going to happen in this session.
Intervention of spiritual surgeons, rewiring my entire nervous system, getting me off one life track onto another life track. I felt like I was having a brain aneurysm and I was going to die. And
you jumped timelines in our session. Basically, you were on this timeline, and it was like, just time slowed down, like we were outside of time. And all I felt was like, when I was running the energy, was like if you were standing on a train track and you felt a freight train coming, and that's shaking.
Yeah, that was happening inside my brain.
Super violent shaking. And we don't talk, it's a distance session, so we're not on the phone. I'm just running energy. Allana's in her house.
Yes.
And at the end, we called each other, and I'm like, I don't don't share anything, but you're like, I don't know what happened, but that was something big happened.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you jumped a timeline.
It was intense. I
Yeah.
thought I was going to have it.
And
I
you
thought my
weren't in
brain,
contact with Gabriel at that time.
no, I don't, was I? Because I think it was in the
No,
5-month gap
you would not
before I
have
heard from him
contact with him, but then
for
you
5
jumped
months.
this timeline,
And then he
and
called.
then literally he
Yeah.
called you or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's how it went. Because it was 5 months that time.
And
It's
then
been
you
almost 2
reconnected
years.
and you're like, oh my God, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I know, I don't, because I have no agenda. I run the energy and the person gets whatever they get.
Yeah.
And that was our very, and it only got crazier from there, didn't it? Our work together is even just so next level.
So next level. Yeah.
So next
So
level.
I'm so grateful. I don't even remember how we even met, but I'm so grateful we did, because I jumped timelines. Gabriel got back in touch. And then for another couple years, I would see him secretly, because just the mention of my name would cause such rage in his dad. And then it would trickle down into such not fun parenting situations for
I want to ask you a question. How were you able to get to an emotional place of releasing and surrendering him fully with love? Because for a mom, that is one of the most challenging. I mean, that's the one thing we love more than life itself. Like, we would die for our child.
100%.
So how were you able to give him the gift of freedom from your energy, pulling on him? How are you able just to say, I love you and I'm going to set you free?
2 things. One, I do a lot of processing with you, and I have another skill set that I've been trained in, that I coach my coaches in. And there was a process I took myself through, and then it got revealed by Gabriel after. But what you do is you put yourself in their shoes and you see the whole thing from their point of view. And I went back to that moment when I crumpled on the granite floor, and I started to see things from this extended point of view, from his point of view, why he left the door open to show his dad, because he got in my face. It was kind of violent. He doesn't normally do that, which was why it was so offensive.
Yeah.
So it was all a strategy to show dad that he hated mom. But when I remembered back, and I didn't remember this until I did the process, I could hear the car hadn't pulled out of the driveway when I closed the door. And he was literally standing at the like this, the door of his car outside, like this, like a sentinel, just like this, until I looked out the window and he did this, and then they drove away. And at the time, I was in trauma. I didn't make any sense.
Sure. You were suffering. You were in your own stuff. And
I was in my own stuff. But when I did this process and I saw that whole thing through that point of view and then through his point of view, I heard in my being, Mom, I'm doing this to protect you. Because the result of that was that court, after 12 or 13 years, stopped. His dad didn't take me back to court again, because I had relinquished, not.
What's so incredible to me is the soul contracts we have and the sacrifices that are made by all the players to get us where we need to go. It's like, before we come into this life, we have all of our soul family and everything in place for us to learn our soul lessons. And our children, our partners, they're our main triggers and teachers, and they sacrifice so much for us to learn our lessons. And I love that you got that. That knowing.
I got that knowing that he did all of this to protect me and to create peace for himself, and that he knew what he was doing. So I didn't need to be a victim about it. So I processed my victim energy. I processed my blame against the dad. I processed my, like, oh my God, I need to control.
There's so much growth and rich experience that came from that moment, but also that entire experience of the custody battle. I mean, we really grow through our life experience, and having gone through that, you're able to show up with so much love and compassion and presence, because you have felt the suffering, you have felt the abandonment, you have felt the fear, you have felt and walked the path so that you could bring others through. And I believe that's why you are such a gift to the world in your work. It's just so powerful. It came at an incredible price, because you had to feel it. You had to feel it to heal it.
Oh, that is so true. That is so true. Um, so yeah, so we when I did get back in touch the first time, he did tell me those exact words. And then we were together for a little bit, sort of secretly. And then when COVID hit, he's also been AWOL for almost 2 years now, living with his dad. And I'm able to have this compassion. Like, what is it like to be a kid with this dream to be a baseball star? You get COVID, you can't use your scholarship to go to college. And I don't know what he's doing. I don't know where they live. And if I really needed to, I could get my techie people to stalk him because I've been blocked on all the Instagram and all the phones and everything. But I'm way more connected to him than I need an Instagram, hit.
Well, you have a soul connection.
Yeah, he'll return.
A soul connection. I believe that fully. He's going to get to a place in adulthood,
yes,
where he's not under someone's thumb and not living in fear and not worried about, if they're under the same roof, he's walking a tightrope right now in his life. And what a sacrifice that is for him, so that you can have your freedom and do your work.
Yeah. So I sense, and we'll have to do another interview at some point when it all occurs, but I sense he'll return. And maybe it'll be because he has a girlfriend that inspires him. Maybe something will happen to his dad and he calls. But my job feels like it is to heal, share what I've learned, send him blessings, believe in him, and be this open-hearted mother. I'm just like, please say sorry that you didn't call me for 2 years. He's like, sorry. I'm like, okay, it's over. Fine. Come here. Like,
well, I think
what have you learned?
We do. And then also, love is the answer.
Yeah.
Love and compassion and higher perspective. That's the mastery. When we can get to that place of spiritual mastery and allow the events to unfold without taking them personally, without being defined by them, without allowing them to define who we are, because we know who we are. That's true sovereignty and power.
Yeah.
And you're there. And it's
He'll
so
return. And I check in every so often. Like, I did actually ask some of my girlfriends back in January when I had a birthday connection with them. Their sons are the same age as my son. And so I said, could you just send me a picture from Instagram to me? And when I got it, I had a little cry, but not bad. And I still feel, I don't think I'm spiritually bypassing. I'm just standing in the light. I'm standing in trust that he'll return.
He's going to come back around when the time is right for him, or
exactly.
The universe will bring you guys back.
I have no worries about that, and I just try to stay unattached and just put one foot in front of the other and take care of myself and my community and do what I'm here to do.
So I know recently you just left a really difficult relationship, and that's forced you to really redefine who you are.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you want to talk about this such an incredible transformation that you have gone through. It's just been gorgeous to bear witness to, the vulnerability and the lessons and the alchemy of your soul. It's just been so powerful. I would love for you to share. You don't have to share the details, but what was the gift of this? What was the lesson in this?
This is a whole other podcast. There's so many beautiful lessons, but I will do my best to keep it concise. The biggest is the part of me that was still addicted to a program where, all the way back to dad, like, if only I could my dad would see me and I would be safe, everything inside could rest. And so I chose an amazing man who didn't make me feel safe, so that I could try to fix him, heal him, inspire him, be good enough for him, anything so that he would calm down, so that I would feel safe, so that I would be good enough. And I chose a really intense gentleman who, it was a very scary relationship. And as soon as it started to get scary, I was so ashamed. So I judged myself and went even more hypervigilant into being the inspiration and loving him the way he was and forgiving him for everything. And we got this, and we can heal together. And then, so that he'll say, oh, I couldn't have done it without you. You're the one. So I'd finally feel good enough. I was just like hook, line, and sinker.
It's amazing how hard we fight for something that's not aligned for us. And not really. And then there's that blind spot, because it's that one thing that there's just always the blind spot, that we think we're doing the work, we're showing up in integrity, and we're showing up with open heart. But then there's this program running in the back that's driving everything that we don't even realize is there.
Totally. So it got so bad. And then thank God he exited from the situation. I would have stayed for another round and another round and another round and just shoved down my shame and put on more of my happy face and done more of my fixing. So we're
so good at that. The masks. We're so trained to put those masks on and really bury the pain.
Yeah.
We're so
the
good
gift
at that.
was it's like legal and it's ugly and it's not even fully resolved at the recording of this interview. And yet, like my son, I'm standing in the resolution of it. I'm standing in the light of the resolution of it. But the biggest gift was that I processed was that, I'm still seeking safety in the masculine. And so I've done a lot of processing since it's happened with you, with myself, where I'm allowing an internal, and I never even had a grandfather. I didn't even mention this when we started our family of origin story, but so I had the dad that I had, but I didn't have grandfathers on either side. So I don't really know what that feels like. But I can create that because I am all that is. So I started to create what it felt like to have a grandfather protect me, what it felt like to have a dad protect me, what it felt like to have a brother. I don't have a brother either. I have a brother protect me. And then to have a divine lover protect me. And then have the masculine inside of me protect me, and have the divine aspect of the masculine protect me. And I did so much work of, forgiving myself and forgiving my ex and forgiving my dad, just all the forgiveness and finding this sense of, to the best of my ability, exhale.
Such deep, rich work. And here's the thing, when we're willing to just pull our guts out, just go so deep into our guts and our wounds with an open heart, and be fearless about sitting in the pain of it and transmuting that shit and opening our heart fully because we are opening it to ourselves. We're not opening it to them necessarily, but in the opening it to ourselves and coming into a full space of pure acceptance and love.
Yes, in the face of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But in the face of terror. Yes. Remember that one session we did? Because the girl, the mechanism, the program, the identity, whatever you want to call it, who was terrified. If she doesn't get the guy to be safe, she's going to die.
Yes.
Like she's terrified.
Yes.
She's not just trying to get approval. No. If we don't get safety, we will die.
It was life and death, and it was past life stuff. Also, that was coming.
It was so wired.
It's very complicated. So people don't realize often these traumas and triggers often have a very long past life patterning and history.
Probably
lifetimes. So to clear it, you can do emotional work, but you also have to clear it on an energetic level, a DNA level, cellular level across all of space and time to fully clear it, which you did, which was crazy.
I know.
I'm so proud of you.
Crazy sessions. Yeah.
But, and then tell them what happened with your dad.
Yeah. Well, so I did I did this session where I let go of the girl who's hypervigilant. Right. And it was terrifying because if I let go of her, what she was telling me, the brain, was you're going to die. And I believed her and my body was reacting like she was right. So to let go of that and just trust and open, holy mofo. I'm telling you, so scary, but I did it.
That was big.
I did it. And then all the inner work was allowing the masculine to come alive. And then it was my birthday. And then my dad called the day after my birthday. And I was solid enough inside to not have an attachment to how he was going to behave. And he took my ex's side in the custody battle. The past has not been fantastic with this gentleman. Right. It's been 5 years since we've talked at times. So we've definitely had our ups and downs over the years. So there I was, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to seek my dad's approval. I'm going to tell him I'm moving to India. And he's like, okay, that's crazy. What's going on there? And he goes, and how's Chris? And I said, we broke up. And he said, what happened? And it was a moment of choice, Wendy. And I decided to be vulnerable because I don't need his approval to love who I am. So I told him about all the violence. And I said, Dad, I'm working so hard not to be ashamed of myself as I tell you this, or embarrassed. And for the first time in my whole life, as I told my dad what happened, he was kind and present, and he didn't try to fix it. He didn't try to put me in a good mood. He didn't judge me. He didn't judge Chris. He just was presence itself. And I felt so safe. It still makes me cry a little bit. Like safe for the first time in my whole life with my dad, and probably lifetimes with a man, a father figure. Like it was so healing. Like that loopy thing that kept happening, it just sort of collapsed.
Right. That's alchemy. That's the energy alchemy of healing.
Yeah.
Is when you heal yourself.
It happens out there.
It's interesting, but all of these relationships seem to resolve, even if you don't have a person-to-person conversation like you did, but there's an energetic healing that goes to all the players.
Yeah.
And it energetically resolves. It's just amazing. It was so amazing that you got that gift.
Yeah.
Right after you had done all of that deep releasing and healing and work about forgiveness and releasing shame and releasing the story that had held you hostage all this time.
Yeah. And so Chris has been the biggest catalyst for me to release this story. So while I wish I had this idea of what I thought the relationship was going to look like and turn out like, and it's the farthest thing from it, but the feeling of getting into that relationship was right and true and good, because he's been the biggest gift for me to heal.
I was going to say the gift that was given
was massive, the biggest gift.
Literally priceless.
Priceless liberation and freedom.
Yeah. And so what a sacrifice that he as a soul chose to play that role for you here.
Yeah. So grateful.
So huge.
Grateful.
It's so huge,
Yeah.
And we're kind of winding down time, but I really, oh my God, I could talk to you for hours, but I really want you to share your vision for Heartmates. And this app has been such a big passion project of yours. If you could, we could just maybe spend the last few minutes talking about what you're creating.
Well, what's happened, because Chris and I have broken up and I've done all this healing. The only thing really that matters is really like being whole in myself and giving my gift to humanity. And so I created this partnering app, because dating apps are designed to keep you single. They make money when you get back on the app, not when you have a successful relationship and move on. So I created a partnering app where there's intimacy training of all that I've learned. And I'm going to be updating the curriculum once I get to India as well, because I've learned obviously so much more since I started it a year and a half ago.
Right.
And we do these live conscious connection calls where we practice communicating deeply, meaningfully, vulnerably. We practice listening by just saying thank you, no fixing, interrupting. And so that's beautiful. But the partnering app, the dating app portion of this trinity, friggin' bugs, bugs, $200,000 later, and bugs and bugs and bugs. And so when all this happened, and I told my wonderful tech guy, he took full responsibility and said, look, you're right. It's not working. I will not charge you. I will rebuild it on a new platform and I will test it. And once that's all done, then I will start charging you again. And he goes, and second, when he heard about what happened with Chris and I, he's like, you will be the first entrepreneur in residence. Please come to India. We will put you up, give you a car. You will go to work. You will make sure the developers have the heart and the vision, and we're going to make it all work together. So I'm leaving for India in 2 weeks with my cat. It's actually less than 2 weeks now. Geez, in 11 days. God, I'm leaving in 11 days for India.
No, this is so crazy, but exciting at the same time. And what I love is that you're creating a partnership app. It's not a dating app. It's like, let's heal ourselves and then meet each other as whole and complete people.
Yes. So we say become the one, which is to do all the inner work and practice showing up with first strangers that then become like your allies and your friends. Okay? Right. And then start dating people that do the work. So when that first conversation happens and they're like, oh, I think I'm just going to ghost you or ditch you because I don't know how to sit in the fire. No, you're being trained how to sit in the fire, and you're dating people committed to sitting in the fire and doing this work. And it's a whole new category. There's nothing like this in the world.
I know, it's so exciting. And I can't wait to see, once it's really fully up and running, I feel the people coming. I feel the need. You're going to fill this void by providing this completely revolutionary way of healing and connecting.
Thank you.
And bringing people together. I just feel the power of it and your passion behind it. And I can't wait. You'll have to come back on once it's fully running, and we can just do an update and share, how people can connect with it. And
absolutely. Well, they can join right now and begin the intimacy training and the conscious connection calls and meet people. And there's a private Facebook group, so you can sort of date that way while the dating portion is getting all the bugs out of it. So it's still growing.
I mean, I believe there are no mistakes, and the timing is always perfect. So I have a feeling that having these tools available are giving people a foundation. So when it's up and running, it'll just be all systems go. You'll have this whole community that's already been through phase one.
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, you're going to be able to bring new people in to do that work, but you're also going to have a community of people who are in the process further along. So you may
our
see
founder
such
circle.
quick results, when they come together.
I really believe when we become the one, we energetically find the one, and then we've learned how to thrive with the one. And that's what I'm providing. We go from heartmates for singles into heartmates for couples, so that our business model is there to support people long-term. And that this is a founder who cares. And I'm going to be able, once things get to this next level, probably take us a year, but that's okay, to this next level where I'm going to go be able to travel and meet different clients and customers and surprise them and have little one-on-one.
I'm so excited for you. I am so excited. You have done such deep sacred work coming back to oneness with yourself. And I just cannot wait to see what's next. This year is going to be so magical.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you in India. I'm going to find you.
We're still going to have our sessions. Don't you worry.
Work together. It's been incredible. Watching you has been a true honor. Watching you heal, watching you grow, watching you be vulnerable, and really, really do the work. Allana, you are so gifted, and you are going to be able to transform the world because of the work you've done on yourself. So I honor you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for acknowledging. It has not been easy. It's taken bravery and courage that I never knew was in there.
Yeah.
Humility. And I'm so grateful for you, because I couldn't have done it without you. And I'm so grateful for my community and my clients, because I'm real with them.
Yeah.
Which gives them permission to be real, and we all go farther, faster together. So, and my team and my staff, they're extraordinary. And my other coaches and business coaches, and this is a family business. There's a lot of people. You have got
such a great springboard and foundation to launch this thing. So I'm just really, really, I'm excited for you. And just living in India for an extended period of time, that's going to be such an adventure in itself. So we're gonna have to have a follow-up podcast.
Awesome.
Once you kind of get settled and things start to shift and you get your footing, it's all new year. It's a year of magic. I've been saying it. It's a year of magic.
Thank you. Yeah. So any of you that don't know me, follow me on Instagram so you can see me riding an elephant or freaking out in traffic or whatever's going to happen, taking my team out for lunch.
I sure hope you document your whole experience, because it's going to be so fabulous.
Yeah, I will. I have a big YouTube following, as you said, so there'll be videos there. There's the Instagram. There's just being a part of my world, because the newsletter videos I send out, I don't put out on YouTube. They're very intimate, just my community. So sign up for my newsletter, and I would love
it's allanapratt.com.
Yep, that's me.
You can find her, sign up, go on the website, work with her, join her newsletter, join her community. She has so much to offer. Allana Pratt, it has been my honor to have you on my show, and have you as a client, have you as a friend. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You are so beautiful.
You so much.
I love you too.
Yeah.
To my audience, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so wonderful to have you on the ride, and we will see you next time. Bye. Take care.